Cameron Mauk. Really enjoyed my talk with this young man. We start the conversation with hunting. He bow hunts. I know very little about this area. It intrigues me. I'm afraid to try something like this because I'll probably like it, and I don't want another habit or another hobby. Excuse me. At this point, I have many that take up my time, but it's an interesting conversation. He's from Southern Louisiana. Oil and gas was his trade then, and a common thread that he had with everybody that he worked with was coffee. Right? As soon as they got into the office, they all gathered around the coffee. So he eventually left, went to Oklahoma, created a business partnership, went up to Seattle, went to a roastery, which I never heard that term before. It's where they roast coffee beans, and now owns Backbone Coffee. He targets kind of the blue collar audience, dirt and blisters on their hands, and where his fruits come from. But really, he's got 4 different varieties right now. We talk about the evolution of coffee and how the coffee business is, especially here in the States. But a great conversation, and he opens up with some, when I ask him about his motivation and some other things, he really opens up in an area I don't think he was prepared to go to. But he's honest, and he's really fun, and he is sharp, and really, really wants good for the consumers, for everybody who partakes in his coffee. Thanks so much for listening and watching. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz, and here's my 45-second introduction. After starting my business in the 90s, I started developing poor habits of eating in my diet because of working way too much. Before you know it, I found myself 340 pounds. The doctor told me if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. Took the next 7 months, lost 130 pounds. People think there's some secret. Ask me, how'd you lose that weight? Like there's some secret. There is no secret. How'd I lose the weight? Just one word: discipline. I've had other successes in life, and I attribute them all to discipline. Now, I'm not the king of discipline, but I believe that it can help all of us. Friends, colleagues convinced me to start a podcast. The podcast mission: how do we better ourselves and society? I talk to interesting people in health, fitness, sport, wellness, business, technology, science, art, and culture. And I eventually ask them how discipline plays a role in their life. Podcast vision: growth through learning from others. Cameron Mauk, thank you. So can you explain to me from a hunter's perspective to a non-hunter? And I'm not a hunter just because I can't afford the time of another great hobby, by the way. But I know people who hunt and they love it. Explain the passion, especially for bow hunting.
Bow hunting, yeah. I'm an avid bow hunter.
Yeah.
I think the passion for bow hunting in particular, I think comes into, I'm going to use the word fairness, which can kind of, some people have their own input, especially into hunting. I'm going to use the word fairness there. There's a lot that goes into it, especially with whitetail. You have to get close, aka
Whitetail
they have
deer.
to get close. Yes, sir, absolutely. That's probably my number one that I bow hunt. But then it also comes into a more spiritual for me in the mornings, right? It's just this very, very sense of calming. I'm able to turn it off, and it's very weird. I'd love for you to experience it one day. I have so many memories with my friends, with people that I've met. That a lot of it transcends into somewhat of a hunting aspect. My father, I can probably count on one hand literally how many times I've hunted with him, which is not a bad thing. That's just kind of how life is there. But a lot of it can be spiritual for me, and also in a friendship form. Those early mornings, I love when the woods wake up, right? It's just very surreal. I feel closest to my creator at that point, in my opinion. You're able to kind of just really take it all in, sit back, enjoy it. And then obviously, if you harvest an animal, I think there's a respect aspect there on my end. As bow hunters, or I don't want to speak for everyone, but myself and a lot of people that I hunt with, no one wants to see an animal suffer, right? So quick, clean, ethical, harvest. I don't want to use the word kill. Harvest are big on my end of things. So sorry, I know that's a that's a long answer, but yeah, that's it. You got to get close. I think it's the fairest way for the animal to have an opportunity to escape. I mean, there's a deer that I'm still chasing for the past 3 years.
Really?
We crossed paths only once last season, and he beat me. So not to say that it's a game, but in a nutshell, it kind of is.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's sorry, I went all over there, but
In this fast paced MSP landscape, how do you stay ahead? Introducing MSPinfluencer.com, your ultimate hub for MSP news, insights, and community connection powered by Forza Dash. More than 75,000 MSPs subscribe to our MSP Influencer Pulse weekly newsletter, staying informed and ahead of industry trends. Tune in to emerging podcasts from Joey Pinz and leading MSP voices, offering essential tips, powerful insights, and success stories. Explore our multi-authored blogs, crafted specifically for MSP leaders, delivering fresh perspectives and actionable strategies. Celebrate excellence with the industry-leading Forza Dash MSP Influencer Awards, recognizing innovation, leadership, and impact in the MSP community. Join thousands of MSP professionals who trust MSPinfluencer.com to grow their business and expand their networks. MSPinfluencer.com, where today's MSP leaders connect, collaborate, and conquer, all powered by the Forza Dash platform, helping MSP vendors work effectively with MSPs and helping MSPs grow. You use the term close to creator, so I mean it's spiritual to you.
in a way, yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. You get to kind of really take in the sunrises, which I
Mm,
love. I really enjoy sunrises. And like I said, you can hear the woods wake up, right? You're there
mm,
first. It's pitch black dark, and you're sitting up in a tree, 20 feet up, and you almost just listen. And everything starts to come alive. The woods start to come alive. The
mm,
squirrels, the birds, deer, raccoons, everything starts to wake up, and you're there smack dead in the middle of it. And
mm.
it's really a beautiful thing. um, a lot of people go to church on Sundays or whatever day they may go, or whoever, you know what I mean there. But for me, um, yeah, that's it. That's kind of it. Yeah, does it for me. So really enjoyable, very spiritual. I have a lot of time to myself to think and to just be still.
Mm,
It's the hustle and bustle of life. I try my best to be in moments, and that's something that I'm working on every day. In this moment here, right? Like I'll never get this back. This moment I have with you, this
mm,
moment we
mm.
have to do this together. It's here, it's now. So yeah.
How do you pick the right tree? You're 20 feet in the air. I mean, how do you know? Like, talk to me about logistics because it's not all spiritual. There's science involved,
There
right?
is. Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. So, whitetail specifically, right? You have bedding areas, you have trails that they travel.
Uh,
It's almost so. I'm going to try to explain this the best I've heard it explained in my version of it. It's almost like when you wake up to go to work, or you're coming
mhm,
home from work. You will travel certain ways. You may veer off this way, right? You might stop at the gas station
mm,
and grab a drink or grab a snack, but then you'll get back on the highway and do this, right? So all these trails, and bedding areas and elevation changes, they all come into play. So like right now, I'm thinking of one of my favorite stands. It is, I call it the highway, right? It's almost in the middle of the highway,
hmm.
but I've hunted it for more than a few years, and I kind of know how the deer operate there. Um, but obviously, to pick the tree, you want a tree with a clear shot. You have this idea. Sometimes it doesn't work out this way, but you have this idea of, oh, he's going to walk right here. He's going to do this, and 9 times out of 10 they don't. But
Mm.
you it's you want a straight tree, the straightest that you can find, should I say. um it's I don't know. I feel like I'm all over. That's it. It's
A lot of instinct there.
a lot of instinct. There you go. Great word. That's what I was looking for. Great word. There's some
Yeah.
instinct that come into play, and everything that I've learned, just through hunting. Mistakes, man. I learn something new every year.
Mm. Mm,
every season that I think I'm prepared for. Something may happen, whether it's the gear that I'm using
hmm,
or it's what a deer does or something, right? You learn every season. And you take that with you and you just try to improve and try to be a better hunter that way. I learn a lot from talking to older folk, from my generation to their generation, with trail cams, right? Trail cams are huge
mm,
in this generation. As to when you talk to the older generation, they didn't have that,
right.
right? So what did they hunt off of? To your point, they hunted off of a lot of instinct,
Mm,
what they saw, how the deer were traveling, mistakes, and then learning from those. So it's all jumbled up into one. And that's also another pretty cool aspect about it, is it's on no one but you,
mm.
right? Like if you make a mistake, it's on you. If it's a bad spot, essentially, it's on you. There's no one else to blame there. So, yeah, instinct is a great word for it.
Mm. And what are the variables you need, Cam, to actually take the shot? I mean, you got to be a certain distance. You got to have a clean area. You're trying to get
Mm.
to a certain spot on the deer. So you need certain things to be green in order to actually shoot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they
So,
are.
me personally, if I'm in the timber, I don't like to shoot over 35 yards. There's a lot of
Uh-huh.
variables that come into play. You think you may have a clear shot, but there's limbs that are in the way, right? You can
Hmm.
hit, an arrow can deflect, you can make a bad shot. Um, but yeah, so distance, what's in your path of travel for the arrow, is important there, in my opinion. Even down to the broadheads that you use, I
It's a
think are
broadhead.
big. The broadhead's kind of what's on the tip of the arrow, right?
I see.
Yeah. So, um, and then honestly, man, is controlling your heart rate because it can get pretty
Mm,
exciting. So,
mm,
you have this adrenaline rush for sure, which is awesome, which is really, that's part of it as well. I mean, I joke and tell my wife, because she doesn't give me a hard time, and she's like, why, why is that it? And I'm like, I can hear my heartbeat. Like there, I
mm,
always joke, I'm like,
mm.
you can land a Boeing airplane right on top of me, and I wouldn't even know it was there in
Wow.
that moment. And I've hunted, with a very good friend of mine, and last season, you can literally see. I call it entering the zone. You can see him when he entered that zone, like where there was
Wow.
nothing going on but what was in front of him. So, um, it's fun, man. It's a
Hmm.
good time.
And of course, all these landowners want population control. So the hunters are always welcomed, right? I mean, people bypass that point a little bit because they may not last through the winter. They'll end up dying. So hunters you've got to get a permit for those who don't understand that. Just like walk me through that a little bit.
Yes, sir. So, especially in the Midwest, sometimes, especially with crops, right? That's some of these farmers' way of life.
Mm,
Um, and deer can do, I don't want to say damage, but it is damage on the human side. But that's just them being deer, right?
right.
So, to your point, yes, yes, and no. I will say
Mm,
that. There's a respect that comes into it. Especially with a landowner, there's certain, I say, rules, right? They may say, hey, close this gate here, don't go here, don't go there, do this,
mm,
don't do that.
mm,
And there's definitely a big respect, that you have to abide by there, that some people don't, right? And it puts a bad taste in their mouth for sure, for certain aspects there. But yeah, so, there are certain permits depending on what state you're in,
mm,
where that is. And I think a lot of it comes down to respect, really. That's a lot how I've gotten a lot of access on my end, and it's grown through the years. And that's really just respecting the landowner. They own the land, right? Um, I think number one's respect. But that's just it.
very
And
cool.
trust, right? They'll learn to trust you, in my opinion. So,
Mm. So you make the kill, Cam, and the deer's down. What's the next step? What are you doing?
so, so me personally, I do everything at home. Some guys will send it to a processor. Great, no
Ah,
worries, right? But I do everything at home. We've got a big meat grinder. I've got a vacuum sealer. I don't do sausage at home. I will give credit to my wife. She's a phenomenal cook.
hmm.
And we actually, oh, I think we shot 5 deer last year and we're out. So
Wow.
hunting season's coming up, but we use all the meat, man. We make steaks out of it. We make ground meat, which in turn you can do tacos, meatballs,
Hmm, hmm.
hamburgers, I mean,
Sure.
all kinds of stuff. Really, what you would use beef for, you can do with deer meat.
Hmm,
It doesn't have as much fat. It's really high in protein. It's really good for you. But I got to give kudos to her
hmm,
because she does use it. Not all of it, because I don't know, for some of your viewers, this may go sit well or sit not, but deer heart is phenomenal, by the
I would
way.
imagine. Yeah.
It's very tender, very, very good for you. And that's one of my favorite parts of it. Clean it up real nice and put it in some garlic and some butter on a skillet, and it is phenomenal. So
Just grill it.
uh,
Hmm,
she won't eat that, but everything else gets used in the house, which I'm very, very grateful for too,
hmm,
right?
hmm,
Because you hear people out there that'll go hunt and then they'll say, "Hey, do you want all this meat?" And I'm kind of going, what are you here for? Don't get me
hmm,
wrong, right? Shooting a nice buck or a big buck is I think the end goal for a lot of hunters. And don't get me wrong, for myself, right? I
hmm,
would love to shoot a big, 180, 190 inch deer, which is a really, really big deer. But a lot more goes into play for me is what it's able to provide in the house, and also the experiences that come with it. Being with my friends, being with my buddies, being with my family, and really soaking that in. Right, not so much the hunt, but after the hunt. To your point, right? If someone kills a deer, it may not be myself, but if someone kills a deer, you have hey Cam, I just shot one. You mind coming to help me track it? Yeah, let's do it. Right.
hmm,
That there is a whole journey, right? And it's fun, especially when you find it, you're with them and you're high-fiving and you're cheering. And then afterwards you bring it back to the cabin or the house, wherever you are, and you're sitting around helping them clean it and put it in the ice chest. You may have some music going, and it's fun, right? There's a lot to it,
hmm.
especially in that. So
Yeah, kind of the camaraderie and the
camaraderie, there you go.
brotherhood and the community. Yeah, yeah. It's I always hear Joe Rogan talk about it too. He talks about these hunts he's gone on with. It just seems so attractive. I just know, Cam, that if I tried it, I would love it. I know that would be the case. So you're from Southern Louisiana. You worked in the trades. What kind of role did coffee play in your life then? Obviously, now it's a very different role. But what did it not? What did it then?
So then, right? So coffee is where it started, right? Every day. I worked in different chemical plants, did different jobs, and then I went into petrochemical, aka oil, gas, all that jazz. But every day you start with coffee, right? When
Hmm.
I would go into work, I wanted to say 9 times out of 10, but I'd almost go 10 times out of 10. You walk
Hmm.
in and everyone, right before the shift starts, a lot of times they're in the kitchen around the coffee pot, right? And they're saying, "Hey, this is what's going on. We're going over to dos." And a lot of it started around the coffee pot. Um, and that was really just to get the day going, right? A lot of times we were up early, going to sleep late, getting up early. So definitely needed a little bit of boost there, and coffee
Hmm.
was able to provide that.
So why start Backbone Coffee now? You're no longer in Southern Louisiana. I believe you're in Oklahoma.
Yes, sir. Yep. So the
Oh,
business itself is still originated out of Louisiana.
I
I have a
see.
business partner, Mr. Chris Nance, who is a phenomenal human being. Um, why Backbone? I drank, certain brands for the longest time, and I really got into kind of the specialty coffee.
Hmm.
What's so good about small batch? What are they really trying to do? And what I mean by small batch is just small batch specialty roasted coffee, really coffee that you're trying to bring flavors out of. And I started looking more for a brand that resonated with me, right? At the
Hmm.
time I was in the trades. I'm like, and I couldn't find one. Not saying there's not, but I couldn't find one that fit with me. So Backbone, the name came from the backbone of America. All the men and women who are out there, busting their tail, working odd jobs, everyday jobs, doing the best they can to provide for themselves and America, right? So it can go from guys who do the roofs on your home, the roads to get to your home, electrical, the oil and gas guys, the guys who work on your cars when you need it. It's also, here recently, Backbone's kind of growing into its own, which is a great thing, but it's also resonating with people who I didn't think it would resonate with,
Hmm.
in a way of, I think there's a respect that people see that what we're trying to do. And I also think it can also turn on a light bulb for some people when you really talk about it and you say those things, right? Like I just said about people who are doing these jobs that can be somewhat overlooked, as it becomes an everyday thing. I've said this in the past, but my wife said it one day. We were talking, and she's like, "Imagine if we had to bring our own trash to the landfill, right?" I don't know
Mm.
how often those guys pick up trash by you, um, but it's just simple gesture of, "Hey, man, I appreciate what you do." And some of those guys, like, "What do you mean?"
Hmm.
Or some of those
Hmm.
guys are like really thoughtful and like, "Hey, thank you so much for that." Um, so it's little things like that. That's all we're trying to do is shine a light and bring a little recognition there and flip people's light bulbs on, to when they see that construction on the road. Yes, it may cause some traffic, right? Right at the time, it may give you a little frustration, but at the end of the day, they're turning it into a 4 lane, which makes it easier for you,
Mm.
right? So it's things like that. That's kind of where it came from. So, and
But loving coffee and, having the sense of community around is one thing, but running a coffee company is very different. What
oh,
lessons have you
yes.
learned about the actual industry versus being a consumer?
Um, I've learned to trust your gut, to be
Mm.
yourself, um, and to also trust who you're working with, right?
Hmm.
It's it can kind of, I initially what came to mind there was sports, as a team, and not so much sports, but what I did in for work. I wasn't the only one running those facilities. Everyone had to come together as a team. So I think teamwork there can transcend into coffee, but it is very different. Um, we have a brand that we have to push, and a lot of that comes from my mind. It comes from Chris's mind, and we can be ourselves. I think that's what people want to see, right? Is a brand that is themselves. They can
Hmm.
have a face to a brand. I am just a normal guy. I'm not anyone special. Um, but trusting who you work with, um, you make a lot of mistakes, right? You learn from mistakes. Hunting, right? There you go.
Mm.
You learn from mistakes, and you do what you can there, to make it better, and you take risks, right? Um, I don't think you'd get anywhere if you didn't take a little bit of risk. So
Talking about your sourcing, I mean, where do you get the beans from? How do you decide that? And I think you have 3 blends now and you're expanding to 6?
yes, sir. So we have 4 now. So we just
4.
dropped, yep, no worries. We just dropped coffee and chicory. But so we work with a roastery out of South Louisiana, which is where we are based still. I work with a roastery out of South Louisiana. So I'm going to kind of backtrack a little bit to initially the first run of this. My partner, Chris, has a family member who owns a roastery in Seattle. So when this was all an idea, we said, hey, we're going to go to Uncle Phil's roastery and we're just going to go learn. So we
What's a
spent,
roastery, Cam?
where they roast coffee. So
Ah,
where you roast coffee and you package it, ship it right out the door.
I see.
Which our coffee is roasted, packaged, and shipped all under one roof. So for that, we went up there and learned as much as we can about coffee, which we learn
Hmm,
every day,
hmm.
whether it be reading or taking classes, um, which we've done and continue to do on continuing education. But um, stay on track here. Yep. So I went up there, spent I think a week or right over a week, learning as much as we can there, and what certain beans can provide flavor, right? Like in
Hmm.
my opinion, we have a light roast, which is a single origin that is jack of all trades. That is an Ethiopian single origin bean there, or varietal, should I say? And the flavor that comes out of an Ethiopian varietal is phenomenal,
Hmm.
in my opinion. I think Brazilian coffee, which they're the number one producers, I believe, at the moment,
Are they really?
of coffee. Um, and Brazilian, in my opinion, is very, oh gosh, what's a good word there? It's very easy to use and blend. So we use
Flexible?
Ethiopian. There you go. We use Ethiopian, Brazilian, Sumatran, oh gosh, some Colombian. We're trying to work on a Mexican varietal there. We've had a coffee in the past. We don't have any on ours, but we've tried some Mexican blends and they are phenomenal.
Mm.
So we're trying to bring that in. Like you said, we just brought in our coffee and chicory. And that came from kind of we're tipping our hats to the South there. Chicory came from
Hmm.
the Civil War era. It was a way for them to ration coffee beans by adding chicory root to that coffee. Um, and then it transcended kind of into a New Orleans staple or a
Hmm.
Southern staple. So that was kind of our salute to the South there by doing that. Um, my grandfather drank coffee and chicory. A lot of the older folks understand and know coffee and chicory, which was really cool for some of the trade shows that we did. Um, we had it there, but it wasn't live yet sometimes, and they loved it. Um, but that's that to that point of them loving it is backbone. We're not doing anything crazy. We're just introducing specialty coffee to an industry that may not be used to specialty coffee, if that
Hmm.
makes sense.
Hmm.
And that's the game plan. So I love our coffee, you know, and it's really good, and it's just it's fun. It's fun and it's constantly learning all
Mm.
of it every day.
How do you
So
decide on a blend?
me and Chris, we taste, and that's
Really?
another part too. Yeah, of us being ourselves is we release these blends and because we like them and we hope, right? Now the guys at the roastery, his name is Chris and Nate also. Chris and Nate, their knowledge of coffee and tasting coffee, we've learned so much from them as well.
Hmm.
But they also have a hand in it too. So I'm not just going to say it's me and Chris Nance, but the guys at the roastery really have some help there, right? Like we'll go do tastings for some new blends or some new ideas that we may have. And Chris and Nate may say, hey, if we roast this, to medium dark versus just dark, you can pull this out of it. And
Hmm.
it's fun. Yeah. We hope that the consumers like the coffee that we like,
Hmm.
so, and they have so far.
And when you say like Ethiopian, is it actually grown in Ethiopia or it's a particular style of bean?
Nope. So it's grown in Ethiopia. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, a lot of it
Wow.
is there.
So the climate and the terrain all has something to do with the bean itself. How is it grown? How is the coffee
It's,
bean grown?
it's from I would call it a shrub.
That's from a
In a
shrub.
way, it almost looks like a grape or a cherry, which I
I
think pretty
see.
sure they call them cherries. Um, and inside the cherry is the bean itself.
Huh.
Um, and actually, legend has it that coffee actually originated in Ethiopia. Pretty cool story from a farmer. Yeah, he was a goat farmer. Called his goats one day and his goats didn't come to him, and he went up in the mountains, found his goats that were a lot more energized and kept eating on this plant. The history of coffee is pretty cool too. So
Huh.
yeah, so that's kind of coffee kind of originated in Ethiopia. um, Here's a little history for you. I can't remember how it got to Yemen, but it got to Yemen, and Yemen kind of controlled the export of coffee years ago. Actually, from their port, which was called Mocha, if I'm saying that
Huh.
right. It was MOK. Oh, I forget how you spell it, but that's where the name Mocha actually came from.
Wow.
And then it was smuggled out of there by a gentleman in India, and then the 1600s were actually huge for coffee. So something you guys, your viewers, can look up as the history of coffee. It's actually
Hmm.
pretty fun. Um, and why tea is so big in the UK
Yeah.
at some point there in the 1600s, when coffee houses were being, I say, built or originated. Um, I don't remember if it was a ban. Excuse me on that. I don't think it was so much a ban on coffee, but tea was easier to brew.
I see.
So tea became so much larger in the UK and the Europe, which is it still is, which is why that happened.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, it's history's pretty cool on coffee. 1600s are really big, and but to your point, climate, elevation, all that matters. It's almost
Mm.
similar to
Grapes, wine.
yeah, to wine. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
Similar to wine in a way.
I would
So around
think.
that equator is huge
Mm.
on coffee and in mountainous regions. So rainfall is big, all that jazz.
Hey, Joey Pinz here. Want to take your podcast experience to the next level? I'm excited to invite you to become a YouTube member. It's the absolute best way to support the channel and enhance your connection. Join our amazing community and unlock the incredible perks, custom loyalty badges, exclusive emojis, and priority comment replies. Your voice will always stand out. Be the first to watch new videos with early access, receive special membership shoutouts, and get exclusive behind the scenes photos and updates. Dive into content available only to our members, special videos, deep dives, and insider perspectives. Engage directly with me. Suggest podcast topics you want to hear, and even get personalized video shoutouts. Hit the join button right now and become part of something special. Let's build this amazing community together. I can't wait to welcome you as a new member. Join the Joey Pinz family today. Because I believe wine producers don't even call them grapes; they call them berries. I could be wrong on that.
Really?
I could be wrong. I have to tell you, by the way, Kim, I've never had a cup of coffee my whole life.
Are you
So,
serious?
yeah, never.
You just never.
Well, I traced it back in the last 10 years. I remember as a kid, my mother had to get off of it for, she had to get off for whatever reason and was like mean and angry for a couple months. I think it just kind of stayed with me. And then I got to a certain point. I said, why start? But it smells great. And
Mhm.
you coffee drinkers, which is 99% of the world, have your own vocabulary. Like when I get coffee for my girlfriend or my daughters or for whoever I make the run, I've got to write everything down because there's just a whole vocabulary there that I don't just understand. My father's from Italy and they drink espresso there. Now,
Oh my goodness.
is that a different bean?
No, espresso is more of a grind, right? It's
Ah,
grind very finely. There's certain blends that can be blended together to make a better espresso. Um, I make espresso with our dark roast.
hmm,
And I've done it with all the roasts just to see how it comes out. But a lot of it has to do with the grind. And then there's it's called crema, that foam that you see on top of the espresso. So crema actually matters, right? How long that crema sits there, if it creates crema, that can go,
interesting.
that can come down to grind size and even quality of coffee that you use. So,
Mm,
um, I will say that our coffee has a nice layer of foam there, and it sits
hmm,
pretty long. So, yeah, I'm really happy with it. But no, espresso is not necessarily a bean.
I
It's
see.
more so how it's ground and what the blend can be. So
But coffee is a huge industry here in the States. I mean, we see Starbucks, there's many, many different, when I'm at the airports, I see them all and so they turn into these cafes that sell other things, but I mean, it's a huge industry. Why get into an industry like that? It seems very competitive, Cam.
it is. It is very much so a Red Sea, as we call it. And
Uh,
when we were initially starting this, that was one of the things. But going back to the brand itself, um, there was really no one trying to hit the market that we're trying to
mm,
hit. So that was part of the main reason that we decided to say, hey, you know what? It goes back to taking a risk. That's like, hey, we're going to go ahead and do this thing. And it's been great. We've gotten great feedback. Don't get me wrong. There's people along the way with anything you do who are going, why
sure.
would you do this? There's already a million and it's like, great. But if I don't ever try, I'll never know. So,
Mm,
um, yeah, you're right. But I think we are a little bit different, right? So we won't, I don't want to say that. I was going to say we won't offer flavors, but me and Chris enjoy letting our coffee bring the flavors out, right?
mm,
Instead
mm.
of adding to it, right? I drink my coffee black. My wife gets the whole mathematical equation coffee when she goes somewhere to get it, right? Or even when she's
Yes,
at home making it.
yes.
You gotta put this and that and this and make sure it's here, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Hey, great, no worries." But I drink mine black. I'm not opposed to having some cream in it every now and again, but I drink a lot of espresso, um,
Mm.
and a lot of times I like my coffee black. Honestly, it came from my grandfather when I was a kid. He always drank it black, and I just remember being a kid sometimes I'd say, "Hey, pops, I wanna try it," and I thought my grandmother told me it would stunt my growth, so I was always scared to drink it. But,
Hmm.
I think it was because she just didn't want me bouncing off the walls. Um, but that's kinda where it stemmed from. I was like, "Well, my pops never had cream in it, so why do I, Why do I need it?" But
Yeah, because a lot of those cups I don't wanna pick on them specifically, but I mean, once you put all the sugars and everything in, I mean, it's a 1,200, $1,300 1,300 calorie, excuse me, dessert. Is it really coffee at some point? And my daughter used to work at a Starbucks there in Los Angeles area, and the same people would come back 3, 4 times a day.
yeah. Now their business
Absolutely
model is
incredible.
phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's say, we'll use Starbucks in LA. You can get Starbucks in New Orleans and Starbucks in LA, and their quality is going to be the same, in my
Wow.
opinion. Sorry, I'll say
Right.
that. So they're able to produce the same quality drink 1,000 miles away,
Wow.
which is huge for them. But, like we have came across the idea of potentially doing, nitro brew in cans to where
Mm.
I want to just give you coffee. I don't want to give you coffee with 50 grams of sugar in it.
Mm.
When we get to that, if and when we get to that, I just want to give you coffee. That's it. I want to let the coffee do the talking. I want to let the coffee have the caffeine. You know, that's it. And it's kind of our thing that we can do with it, right? That goes back to being ourselves. I
Mm.
just want to give coffee that's coffee, right? So, and look, you do what you will with it when you get it. That's fine.
Mm.
But that's it. We just want to give you 100% Arabica small batch specialty roasted coffee.
Because the Starbucks, I don't know, the Jeffries, the others, I mean, they're not just coffee, they're cafes, right? So they've
Oh
got a
yeah.
lot of real estate and they've got the little sandwiches and they've got all these varieties and they've got the app where you could download, they've got a drive through. So, I mean, it's a whole kind of experience. It's much more than just the coffee. Do you see Backbone going into the cafe business?
Um, I can't. I don't want to say no
Right,
because the future's unknown, right?
right.
Tomorrow's unknown. I think Backbone. I can say now that I would. I'll say this. My idea. Um, I wouldn't mind that. Should I say that? And the reason I say that is because of who Backbone is, and if we open multitude of locations, in my head, I would love to have um, local people somewhat showcase some of their work,
Mm.
right? And what more so I'm hinting at is there's a lot of people out there that do a lot of welding and they make artwork with that. So I would love to incorporate um,
Hmm.
wherever shops may be, local people's work inside our cafes, if you will.
Mm. Mm.
Um, but I don't want to say no, right? Because people may love our coffee and they may say, "Hey, I love your light roast, but I add this, this, and that, but it's the best macchiato I've had using your beans."
Mm.
So I don't know. I don't have a yes or no,
Right.
to that. I think it's gonna grow and go where it goes. As crazy as that sounds. Um, I don't want to take away from the consumer, right? Or the
Mm.
possibility of what they may want to drink our coffee with, right? So, yeah, but that's mainly the idea of the cafe. I think of more of what can we do for the local industry people in that area, right? Um, what what aura can we bring when you walk in if we have a cafe? What can we bring when you walk in? Can we add history of that town, of an industry that's big in that town in there? There's a lot more to it, in my opinion, too, of what you can do. So
I recently saw, I believe his name is Schultz, the founder of of Starbucks, and we went through the history. But the business model of selling coffee, packaging it, distributing it, and cafes is very different, right? There's a whole extra element, so it's just a different model that has to be taken on. So why go after that particular market, Cam? You're going after kind of the blue collar, the kind of the backbone of the country. Is it because who you relate with?
I think part of it definitely is for who I relate with, but I think the second part is how many people make up that class, you
Mm,
know, millions and millions and millions of people. Um, I would be willing to bet that you probably know someone in the trades, or
certainly. My
someone
father
out
was a
there
welder.
who's,
Yeah.
yeah, see, or someone out there who's busting their tail just to make ends meet, right? Everyone, we live in hard times, and I think that's my opinion, but I believe that
Yes.
everyone is doing what they can, and I think to have a brand that can shine a light on that's huge. But at the same time, I think it can go back to who I relate with, right?
Mm,
I come from the South. I come from Southern, oil and gas and
yeah.
petrochemical plants. Growing up, that's it, where I'm from, should I say. That is what 8 out of 10 of my
Yeah.
friends do or wanted to do and still do is something in the trades. That's what my grandfather did. My dad didn't go in the trades, but my grandfather was. Um, and like I said, growing up, they always had the truck or the hunting camp or
Mm,
this, right? So that's what you wanted to do. I wanted that. And it was, I'm not going to say easy, right? But the schooling is a lot less for certain trades. Now, if you're a plumber, that can take a little bit longer.
sure.
Electrical can take a little bit longer. But for me, some people get in it without any degree. I went and got a 2-year degree in applied sciences, or AKA process technology,
Hmm.
um, which allowed me to have that on my resume to get into those plants. Um, but there's so much for the younger generation to still do, as far as getting in, right? As far as getting what's the word I'm looking for there? Experience, right? In those trades. There's a lot of jobs, whether it's plumbing, electrical, especially I'm gonna stick to oil and gas since I know that so much. But there's contractors that people can work for and go do things to get that experience while they're in school. Pipe fitting, welding, even some mechanical jobs within those facilities, that younger generation can do and add that to their resume. And with a degree on top of that, in my opinion, I think companies love to see that, especially a
Hmm.
little bit of hustle. Um, they have hustle, but they also know that they have some knowledge there because they went to school as well. So
Has technology and specifically AI helped the coffee industry or hurt?
I don't know. Um, I th- I'm gonna say that I think if you don't adapt, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, I think if you don't adapt, you can somewhat get lost because AI is huge. I don't want to say it's coming. I believe it's already here.
Hmm.
And I think if we don't adapt, then I definitely think something can go wrong. But in my opinion, I'm going to use my experience right now. It hasn't hurt us at all. But I definitely think that things can become more automated for sure.
Hmm.
Especially the roasting process. Hoppers and roasting equipment definitely can be automated, which they are,
Hmm.
some of them. So, um, but I definitely think having, like me personally, I love to speak to a human. Right, customer
Me
service
too.
is huge for me. I will buy from a company. Their product may not be, this product may not be as good as B product, but their customer service is 20
Hmm.
times better than B product. I'll still stick with them. So I think having a person there is key. But to that, I mean, there's some people who are using AI and you don't even know it's AI when you're on the phone with them. So
Oof.
um, I think we'll have to adapt. I think everyone will.
Hmm.
I definitely think, I don't want to get off topic, but I definitely think that technology is, for my generation, is, I think everyone who's alive on this earth at the moment, AI is,
It's touching
I,
them some way.
Yeah, and I don't even think we can explain what it's gonna do,
Yeah.
right? I don't wanna say it comes down to the splitting of the atom because that was huge, um, but I think some people can characterize it in that same category. I personally also don't have the knowledge of AI technology. Everyone has ChatGPT. I say everyone. A lot of people do, and I'll use that. That's nothing for me to hide from. I'll use that. I've used Chat GPT, whether it's for when I say for the business, it can be like for generating ideas and then taking that and just, okay, let me do this, right? Or all the way down to workout plans and how I eat, or it's amazing in a way, that it's almost like you're talking to a human, you know. Um, yeah, I think everyone's gonna have to adapt for sure.
I think so too. Anybody that wants to get into the coffee business, what's your advice?
Uh, Go for it.
Hmm.
But no, what's my advice in the coffee business? I don't know, man. It's go for it. It's fun. You like it goes back to just taste. Learn as much as you can,
Hmm.
but don't be afraid to not know. Right. I've gotten a lot further by asking questions and not trying to make it seem like I know what I'm talking about. Does that
Hmm.
make sense? I've gotten a lot further by not being afraid to say, "Hey, I don't know this." And I think that can transcend across a lot of business models. Some people can come out and they want to be perceived, um, lack of better terms, as this genius in that business, right?
Hmm.
But for me, I'm not afraid to not know. I'm not afraid to ask questions. Um, I definitely think every room that you go in, someone knows more than you. You know, um, and there's a lot of knowledge to be learned. Um, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to shoot your shot. If you have brand ideas, go for it. You know, um, we're not our business models not too different from all these other guys out there. We just believe that we have a niche that no one's really paid attention to, and that's what we're pushing for. So,
Hmm.
if you can find a niche that you believe will work, go for it. You know.
I like what you said there about niche. Sometimes people kind of are way too wide. They kind of want to what they call boil the ocean, right? But it's important
Mm.
to get a niche and to pursue it. Cam, has there been anything in recent history in the last month or so that you changed your mind on?
That I changed my mind on. Are you referring to just coffee or life?
Anything, anything.
Um, I think coffee. We were going to. I don't want to say change the brand, but to your point, we were having conversations of. I love that term, by the way, boiling the ocean,
Yeah,
to where may take a little bit longer to get to the answer, but I promise
it's
I'm
all
going to
right.
get
It's
there.
all right.
I'm very inclusive. I don't want anyone to feel excluded, right?
Hmm.
So where I'm going with it is I talked to Chris and I was like, hey, I want to change some of the wording in the brand, right? I don't want the brand to seem like you have to have dirt under your fingernails or blisters on your hand to drink our coffee,
Mm.
right? Um, and I wanted to include everyone, right? To where I was like, hey, maybe we should change the wording on the back of the bag. And me and Chris had a discussion, and Chris is like, well, Cam, that's us, and he's like, why would we change the words on the back of the bag? Small edit, why would we change those words on the back of the bag just to make it feel better for you? And I kind of sat there and I'm like, you're right. Like I read that and that's us.
Mm.
And if we're trying to show people that, hey, we're just regular guys who've worked overtime, guys who've missed birthdays, guys
Mm.
who've missed
Mm.
Christmases,
Mm.
why change it? So that changed my mind. And I said, you know what? You're right. And that goes back to trusting who you work with, or trusting if you have a partner in business to trust them. Um, but yeah, I changed my mind there and I kind of moved
Hmm.
on from that. And we're just going to keep being us.
Great, great having a partner. Great to have that feedback like that. And by the way, people that work in white collar jobs have missed birthdays and missed, things as well. So, you want to be loyal to your base, but have it a way that's kind of inclusive. I see what you're saying there, and it's something that you'll find a great solution for because Well, it's a great product and you have your best intentions in mind. So I started my business, Cam, in the 90s. I'm a little bit older than you. And I was working these 14, 16-hour days that you're no stranger to. And I wasn't paying attention to myself, my own health. I was putting it in the back seat. Next thing I know, I'm in front of the doctor. She tells me I'm at 340 pounds.
Oh
So
my
I
goodness.
gained all this damn weight, and I was in my 20s like yourself. And so I just, my body's a wonderful thing. It just got used to it. But I didn't realize how big I was. And, she says to me, if you don't lose this weight, you're not going to see your daughter graduate. So my daughter was just born. So I'm driving home, Cam, and I'm punching the steering wheel, and I'm like, look, this is my pie hole. I can abuse myself all I want, but I have a family now. I have this little girl that somehow I've been responsible to bring into this world, and I have to be, so I spent the next 6, 7 months. I lost about 120 pounds, and I
Oh my
kept it off.
gosh.
Yeah, so you can't look at it as a finishing line, right? These are lifelong changes. It's nothing temporary. I don't like the term diet, right? Because it denotes temporariness. So when I tell people this story, I always get the same question with losing weight. What's your secret? What you do? And I say, there's no secret. Discipline, right? I got motivation, I got willpower, I got focus, routine, etc., which I consider all under discipline. I wonder how discipline plays a role in your life, Cameron Mauk.
I love that, by the way. Congratulations, right? Because that's a huge milestone. I don't want to say it's a delayed congratulations, but you
Mm,
constantly still have to be disciplined there. As discipline played a role in my life, I think it's every day.
mm,
And when I think when I'm going to speak out, not for everyone, but for a lot of people, I think the word discipline, right? When you first hear it, a lot of people think of that, of you don't like the word, of dieting, of working out. Discipline for
mm,
me can be simple. I think if I can prioritize something and be disciplined at that, I think it can transcend into other parts of my life. So for me, one thing I've been trying to do every day, like I told you initially before this, or you may have been, it may be on here, was being present, trying to be disciplined and being present, right? Has changed my life for sure in a very 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 positive manner. Which in turn has turned around to what do my mornings look like? Okay, I
mm,
make my coffee, I go outside, I put my feet to the earth. Um, I try to practice gratitude every single day and be disciplined there,
mm,
which in turn goes down into my personal health. I want to be disciplined in my workouts. I want to be disciplined in how I eat, but not to where it's where I can't enjoy a brownie sundae with my kid. Right? Um, Discipline is huge. It definitely can steer you in better directions. You know that first and
mm,
foremost. It steered me into being a better husband, being a better person, um, realizing what I have in front of me. Now that I prioritize presence. Don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect.
mm,
I was, on vacation last week, and I was prioritizing some other things I had to do versus where I was.
mm,
And I'm going to touch on Chris again. Chris calls me. I was actually driving back to the house we were staying in, and he's like, "Are you present? Have you been present?" And I said, "Man, I haven't." And he's like, he goes, "The business is going to be here when you get home." And I'm like, "Well, I got to get this done. I got to call." He's like, "Cam, be there."
mm, mm.
And I said, "Okay, you got it." And that,
Great partner.
yeah, he's great. He's a phenomenal human being. I've learned so much from him, and I think a lot I've learned from him was discipline. For
Mm,
someone of that nature to call me out on that and not be afraid to do that, because everyone needs a little kick in the rear every now and again to get back on track, right? Uh, but being disciplined in that in the presence aspect has also grown into being disciplined in gratitude, which has grown into, hey, I'm able to work out, I'm able to move,
mm.
um, so I need to use that. You know, I don't know if that really answered your question.
Yeah, the role of discipline. You know, there's no wrong answer.
Yeah, you're
Right,
right.
and I could ask you again in a week and it might be a different answer. I mean, that's the idea. I mean, at one point there are times in my life, Cam, where I feel like the 340-pound guy inside me is trying to get out.
Mm.
When I
What do you
feel
mean
like
by that?
like I'm overindulging, perhaps. I'm having
Mm.
maybe a little too much of a Sunday that you just mentioned, or whatever it may be. So I find myself pulling back, and certainly I'm not disciplined. You mentioned that you weren't perfect. I'm certainly not disciplined in everything. There's certain areas that I focus on, and there's areas that I'm really, really poor at. But the idea is just to be better. What
Mm.
motivates you, Cam?
Um, oh, I just got the chills when you said that. My daughter, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Whew, I'm gonna try not to get emotional. But it's my daughter.
How old is she?
She'll be 7 this year.
Wow.
Um, yeah, I want to be ah, I want to be better every day.
Yeah,
Um, my daughter really, and I think if my dad sees this, great, but I want to be sorry.
I heard you say that she's a daddy's girl.
Yeah, very much so. Man, forgive me. I didn't think this would happen. I didn't even know.
It's okay. It's quite all right.
um,
I've
I
got
want to
2
be better than.
daughters.
Yeah, I want to be. If my dad sees this, I think he'd respect it. I've never told him this, but I want to be better than him.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
not saying he's a bad dad, but I want to be better than him. My daughter's number one, and I think second is my wife. And but I just I want to be there for my daughter.
yeah.
Um, I want to be a role model. I want to show her that, hey, you can be whoever you want. You can chase your dreams, no matter how big or small. Right? It's so cliche, but it's also I when you get to the role of being a dad, because I wasn't perfect. But to show her that things can happen and things can change and people can be better is phenomenal. And for my dad, I've got two younger brothers, and I'm very grateful for that aspect that he's there in their life. And I'm not saying this in a way of like he wasn't there for me, right? Things happened with my parents where my dad wasn't around as much. But what's funny is I was talking to my younger brother about that the other day.
Hmm,
Is he's like, man, I wish I had dad young when he had you. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like,
mm,
but you don't get it, right? And it's okay. I was like, um, yeah, dad was younger, but things happened with my mom and our dad, to where dad's around every day, right? Like, dad a lot better than I do. And I'm grateful for that because they needed that and they need that. Me and my dad have a great relationship. We have had a great relationship. But, for instance, I was just in my head the other day, and me and my daughter were riding our bikes, and I always think of that. I want to be better. How can I be better?
hmm,
Right. And I was literally just riding around the block, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, I am better. My daughter's
hmm.
almost 7. I have a wonderful wife. She comes home to her parents every night. Like, it's perception is huge, man, in that aspect of things. But my daughter would be my number one motivation for sure for everything that I do. I'm telling her now and trying to get her to learn that, hey, when you walk out of the house, you're a representation of us, right? So manners, how you carry yourself, is huge. But I try not to be too protective,
Yeah,
but I can be, right? This world is not a safe place,
right.
especially for a young woman. So I think how how I treat her mother, she sees that, how I talk to her mother, um, I think definitely plays a role because they do listen. And she does pay a lot more attention than I think I would like to admit. Um, but that's a great thing, right? Because she'll grow up and um, she'll say, "Hey, my dad was great. My dad did this. My dad took care of my mom however he can." And I think my wife can say that about her dad. My father-in-law is a fantastic human being, is a great father, is a great husband, and is a great role model. And he knows that. I've told him that. Um, But to see, my wife is, a grown woman now. I think she can say that. You know, she can say that about her dad. So goes back to what I was just saying. If I can present myself as the best of my ability, right? Like I said, I'm not perfect, um, but to just show my daughter that, hey, this is how your dad did it, or this is how a woman should be treated, I think is huge, especially for a woman. And I think it goes to if I have a son one of these days. Um, I didn't really know how to be a dad. Um, through trial and error, you kind of figure it out,
Yeah.
and I read something actually last night. And it was so funny because I resonated with it. Sorry, I'm going on a tangent here. To where it said, when from the aspect of how I read it, the guy was talking about himself, and he said, "When I had a daughter, people told me, 'Oh, you're going to have payback, right? It's going to be payback for all the things you did,' but it's not. It's
Uh,
and it's the ability for us to give love that we may not have gotten, or to teach lessons that we may not have gotten, right? So it's not payback; it's another opportunity to extend that out, extend that love, extend that knowledge, and whatever it may be. So she's very important to me. We spend a lot of time together, which I'm very, very, very thankful for. Before we moved to Oklahoma, I was working and I ran a tree company at the same time. So I missed a lot. And with work, she's almost 7. I wasn't there for 4 of her birthdays and 4 Christmases.
mm,
Um,
mm,
a lot of times I thought, hey, money this is why I'm here. I need to
mm.
provide, 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 which, right, that is part of it. Let's not, you don't want to put that to the side. But now I look at it, I'm like, I'm with my daughter a lot. She gets to see what I love to do. Um, she's still a girly girl, which is fine. Um, I'm just thankful for those things. Now I have a lot of time to be with her, and um, to teach those lessons to the best of my ability. So
Mm.
sorry, that is all over, but yeah, no
Yeah,
one's
that'll
really
never change, Cam. You'll
that.
always my daughters are in their 20s, and I still in my mind I see them as, as these 2 young ladies, and you just gotta by example, just try to be the best you can around other people in front of them. That's really the best way they learn. I remember one particular story as you were talking. I don't know why it came to me. One of my daughters was right around that age, 6 or 7. I remember we were in a store and there was a mannequin with some clothes on it, and my daughter says, "Daddy, what's that?" I said, "Well, it's a mannequin. She's displaying the clothes that she has on for you to purchase, perhaps." And then she says, "Why doesn't she have a head?" The mannequin didn't have a and I said, "Well, it's not needed for the clothes." And she said, "Well, how's she gonna eat ice cream?"
Oh
So it's
goodness.
just the innocence,
Hmm.
right? And certainly the greatest thing in my life has been, my 2 daughters, and I don't know how I would have been with a son. I'll never know, which is just fine. I love them dearly, and I'm thankful and have gratitude for them. So given the motivation of legacy, right? You talk
Hmm.
about your family, you talk about your wife, your daughter. How do you measure success, Cam?
How do I measure success? For me, I think it's how you spend your time. I don't want to say it's bank account. I think um, I love meeting new people,
Mm,
and I think success for me can be, what imprint did I leave on somebody when I left, right? Um, I don't need to know, right? Don't get me wrong. I'm sure there may be people out there that don't like me. I don't know, but it doesn't
mm,
bother me. But if I can be the same person that I am with, I don't know, a billionaire, and the same guy I am with a person who may be struggling right on the street, homeless person. I think just being myself is success. It's an odd answer, I think, right? But that's how I measure it.
mm,
Um, I think success can be defined on how you leave a room. That's my take on it,
mm.
really. Don't get me wrong. I think money comes, money goes. But you only got one shot at this. So, you know. how you leave this earth, and to your point, legacy.
Yeah.
Is it a legacy I'm trying to create? Maybe. Um, or is it I'm just going to be the best person that I can be? I have a whiteboard when I walk out of my garage, and we have a home gym, and on the whiteboard it has one thing on it. It says make someone smile today. And every
Mm.
time I leave the house, I see that.
Hmm.
Very simple, you know, and I would love I'm going to call Chris out on this. Chris said something very interesting to me that I think of a lot. Chris goes, I would love to make the most amount of money I possibly can and give it all away.
Mm.
And that was before we started a business together. That was before I really knew him as a partner, and we've grown as friends through the business. But it made me think, you know, I'm like, why?
Mm.
He goes, what do I need it for? He's
Right.
like, I'll take care of my family. He's like, but other than that, why do I need it? And I just sat there and I'm like, okay. He's taught me so much without knowing. He knows this, by the way. I tell him all the time. Um, but I think success can be defined of how people characterize you when you leave a room.
Mm.
You know,
Want to show your love for discipline, inspiration, and the Joey Pinz podcast? Now's your chance. Introducing the brand new Joey Pinz merch store, where style meets discipline. Choose from premium apparel, cozy hoodies, stylish hats, durable bags, and your new favorite coffee mug, all featuring the iconic Joey Pinz logo. Perfect for podcast fans, discipline enthusiasts, or as unique gifts for friends and family. Every purchase supports the Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations podcast, helping us continue to inspire greatness and promote positive change. Visit joeypins.com/store today and wear your discipline proudly. Joey Pinz merch. Wear it, share it, and live it. Yeah, I like what you said about I have this philosophy, Cam, what people think of me is really none of my business, you know. And um I find that as I get older, I have more questions than I have answers, you know. And so it just
mm,
for me, it's continually learning, it's
that's
continually
interesting.
understanding from great people like yourself. And so you can count this last hour we've talked as a success because you've made me smile more than once, that's for sure. Listen,
Yeah.
anybody listening or watching, how can they get in touch with you? Thanks so much for your time today.
Yeah, no worries. We're on Instagram, so I kind of run all. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I run all the socials, so if anyone shoots us a DM on any of those, I'll see it. But we do have an email at the very bottom of our website that feel free to email us anytime you may need. Backbonecoffee.com. Um, find us on there. Order some great coffee. You know, shoot us a message. Let us know how you like it. We'd love to post what you guys think about it. And yeah, that's it.
Just like it sounds, backbonecoffee.com. You're on Instagram, Facebook, even TikTok and YouTube. Cam, thank you so much. Next time I'm in your neck of the woods, maybe we'll get a cup of coffee together. I don't
I would
know.
love to do that. That'd be the first one for you. That'd be great.
you, you be well. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.